As we begin our spiritual journey and begin surrendering to our spiritual guidance, we open more and more to communicating with our higher self. But that's not just listening to our higher self, but speaking to our higher self, asking questions that we seek answers to, asking about guidance, even speaking our desires. To me, this is our divinity. So it makes sense that I can lay out all my desires, even though my higher self is aware of my desires. We are meant to ask or speak our heart's desires because that's actually one way of physically bringing the infinite potential of God to manifestation. And it may not always be with our voice, it could just be silently asking or thinking about something. But when we ask or speak from our authenticity, it's always evident in our heart and to our higher self. Same as when we ask from our ego, our higher self knows. So I believe polarity exists in all things. That spirit is the infinite creative potential, where the 3D is the manifestation of that potential. So we are the polarity of God. Through our experiences, we're here manifesting the infinite potential of God. Putting a voice to our desires is the physical, which is the manifestation of the spiritual or infinite potential, which is where our heart's desires come from. And that's different from the ego, which are conditioned desires. God sees our heart, so when we ask or make known our desires, we can see that manifesting in our lives. If it's coming from our heart or from our conditioning, it will be evident. For example, early in my journey, my desires for my twin were for selfish reasons. They came from my conditioning. But as I gradually moved out of that conditioning, I noticed my desires changed and they felt different. So my journey manifested those conditioned desires by taking me through changing that way of thinking. And some of it involved healing, some of it involved repeating the past, but it was shown to me in a different light each time. Sometimes through different people, but also sometimes with the same people. But as I went through my spiritual growth, where I was gradually growing into 5D consciousness, experiencing oneness with my higher self, I still desired to share love with my twin on a physical level as well, but it became much more spiritually rooted, meaning that I wanted to build with him something authentic, which is through love for myself, including my boundaries. And even if it may not always seem like it, as long as I'm being true to myself, it will always be out of unconditional love for him too. To me, this means getting to know the real him without rushing the physical side of things, which is why it's so important for twin flames to be able to maintain balance in their energy, which is the shared soul, but also balance with their shared physical field of energy. And if you're maintaining balance with your higher self, the physical energy is much easier to keep balanced. And as I'm the more spiritually focused twin, or the more feminine energy in the 3D, I will set the bar for that. And I don't just mean not getting sexually intimate too soon, though I feel like that's more to the physical and probably shouldn't be one of the first things that happens, unless you're both balanced through your higher self. And I do believe there is something deeply sacred about the physical union of a shared soul. And not because I heard someone else say that, but in my very first encounter with my twin flame, which was soul recognition, I believe I was shown that it's sacred. But what I mean by setting the bar is to be authentic in your interactions with them, which is going to be all about loving yourself in your interactions. That means balanced energy. And that's with any relationship. The only difference is with someone other than your shared soul partner, they may or may not reflect that back to you. And I've seen a lot of posts on celibacy as a twin flame, so I've got a video where I share my thoughts on that as well. But I do believe people are more likely to reflect that back to you when you're in your authenticity. But guess what? Your other experiencer is going to mirror that back to you. That's why the feminine intern sets the bar by putting their desires out there from their heart, from the soul, the shared soul. And an example, and I'll just use intimacy, it'll be about wanting intimacy with true depth, not just physical gratification or all of the conditions we've known in the past, codependency and such. Because if you seek that out without allowing them to know you authentically, which will be mirrored back to you, then you're still largely an ego, and that's what's going to be reflected back to you. They're going to mirror back to you egoic desires and intimacy without true depth. And with other relationships, I know firsthand you can know someone for years and still not know them for who they truly are. But if you're in your authenticity with your twin, acting through self love, which is spiritual love, that's your divine energy or your unique balance of divine feminine, divine masculine energies, your twin will mirror that back to you. That's part of the reason why we have a shared soul with another human being. So we can learn what it is to have an authentic relationship with someone, because it's through our twin flame that we have the potential to do this like never before. And once that foundation is set, the masculine intern starts bringing the physical into union with the spiritual. But it's from an authentic place, it's from the soul, the shared soul. And because that spiritual foundation is there, and because you are in soul, what they bring will be from soul, which is physical, and it will stand strong. So when imbalances occur, and they will, you're able to work through that because you've built your relationship through aligning with your higher self. And that's reflected from the masculine to the feminine and back to the masculine, and vice versa. Like, it's often said that the masculine mirrors the feminine, but often people don't realize that that means the feminine mirrors the masculine just as well. And that's because many believe the feminine leads the entire journey, but I believe the feminine leads the spiritual aspects of the journey, whereas the masculine leads the physical. And it is true that the feminine does lead in the sense that they are setting the bar for the physical growth to mirror the spiritual growth that the feminine goes through. And it's not about an exact reflection, not really mirroring that's going on. It's just the shared energy. But the term mirroring is actually a good way to think about it. But due to the physical and spiritual dynamics, the feminine intern sets the bar in the relationship with the masculine intern. And I'm not talking about a traditional relationship or religious beliefs, though all of that can be a part of it, but it's going to be what the feminine intern makes of it, what they seek out, how they stand on their boundaries. That's why you may have heard some people say when the feminine moves on with focus on themselves, the masculine comes in, and from there it's up to the feminine if they move forward. Like, something I've heard people say is that the divine masculine is magnetically drawn back in because the divine feminine is focusing on themselves, so the masculine focuses on them too. But you can use a lot of different examples other than intimacy for setting the bar, because the feminine is setting the bar with the spiritual foundation. They are also setting the bar for the physical, just as they do with the spiritual and physical growth cycles during our journey. What the feminine in turn goes through in their spiritual growth cycles, the masculine reflects when they lead the physical growth cycles. Same thing with coming into union, such as I think things like being vulnerable plays into this, or not putting aside things I enjoy doing because, I'm giving too much attention to my counterpart now. I feel I have to allow my twin into my world just as much as I'm involved in theirs. Like, don't deny it or be ashamed of it. Meditation, for example. And most people are open to meditation nowadays, but maybe not many would be open to what I believe I get through it. But I believe that's something I will share with my twin, and I can actually see us meditating together. And then there are things like being yourself. I mean, fake nails and makeup and other artificial additions to your body is all okay. I personally see that as artistic expression, but some people do that out of ego. And there are people out there with millions of followers who have many, many videos on what a divine feminine is. And the ones I've seen don't talk about it as being energy, but they talk about things like how you walk and making sure you spend time on a beauty regimen and, a lot of stuff like that. And that's all well and good, but it's not what divine feminine energy is about. And in fact, it goes against it to an extent. Like, if you're concerned about how people perceive you just because you don't have makeup on, or if you're not feeling your best today, what's important is that others can see your inner being shining through. I mean, that's what really drives connections. And there are others who talk about, how the divine feminine energy is about being receptive. And it is, but they take it too far. Like, they literally say the divine feminine does not do that. Let a man do it. And it's okay to let others do things for you, whether you're of a more masculine energy or a more feminine energy. But it's with all of this, base it around loving yourself with humility and patience, and not pretending to love yourself with selfishness and distortion. So, when you're setting the bar or the bar is being set by your counterpart, even before a union or even in any relationship, listen to your inner guidance, acting with divine energy, self love. Maintaining balance will come with that, and that's what we desire for our union.